There's a growing buzz surrounding the New England Patriots right now, and it's the kind of energy fans haven't felt in a while. The offseason is heating up, and all eyes are locked on a situation that could completely reshape the offense. The name at the center of it all is A.J. Brown, and while nothing has been officially confirmed, the signs are getting harder to ignore. Every time Philadelphia leadership addresses the topic, the tone feels carefully measured, almost like they're buying time while exploring their options behind the scenes. Technically, he's still part of the Eagles roster, but the way this situation is unfolding suggests something much bigger is brewing. When you look at how Philadelphia is built, it starts to make sense why this conversation is even happening. They're a team that leans heavily on the run game, yet they're carrying two elite wide receivers who both demand a high volume of targets. That kind of talent is a luxury, no doubt, but it can also create imbalance, especially when resources like salary cap space come into play. Between A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, one of them becomes the logical piece to move if adjustments are needed. And when you factor in contract size, age, and overall roster strategy, Brown naturally becomes the more likely candidate in trade discussions. This isn't about questioning his ability or impact. Far from it. A.J. Brown is one of the most physically dominant receivers in the league, a player who can take over games and elevate any quarterback he plays with. But wide receivers at that level also expect to be heavily involved, and when the offensive structure doesn't consistently support that, tension can build. It's not necessarily about locker room issues or chemistry problems. It's more about maximizing value and aligning roles within a system that doesn't always favor high-volume passing. That's where the Patriots enter the picture in a very serious way. There's a growing belief that New England is positioning itself as the top landing spot if this deal materializes. The fit makes sense from multiple angles. The Patriots have been searching for a true number one receiver, someone who can anchor the passing game and accelerate the development of their young quarterback. Adding a player like Brown wouldn't just fill a gap, it would instantly transform the identity of the offense. It would give defenses something they haven't had to deal with when facing New England in recent years, a legitimate game-breaking threat on the outside. The biggest question now isn't whether a trade could happen, but when it might actually go down. Timing is everything in deals like this. There's the upcoming draft, which adds another layer of strategy. Teams could try to package picks to get ahead of the market, especially if they believe other franchises are circling. On the other hand, waiting until later in the offseason could provide financial flexibility, particularly when it comes to managing cap implications. That creates a chess match between urgency and patience, where both sides are trying to maximize their return without losing leverage. From the Patriots' perspective, it becomes a matter of how aggressive they're willing to be. Do they put a top draft pick on the table to secure the deal immediately and prevent a bidding war? Or do they take a more calculated approach and try to negotiate a lower cost over time? These are the kinds of decisions that define front offices and shape the trajectory of a franchise for years. If New England truly believes A.J. Brown is the missing piece, then making a bold move could be exactly what this team needs to reestablish itself as a serious contender. There's also an interesting layer to all of this when you consider the relationships across the league. Conversations between coaching staffs and executives happen more often than fans realize, and they can influence how deals take shape. Even something as routine as planning joint practices can open the door for broader discussions about roster construction and player movement. It's all part of the interconnected nature of the NFL, where competition and collaboration often exist side by side. At the same time, the Patriots aren't just looking outward, they're also building internally in ways that could support a move like this. The organization has been making efforts to modernize its infrastructure and create an environment that attracts top-tier talent. That kind of investment sends a message to players across the league that New England is evolving, adapting to the current era while still holding onto the culture that made it successful in the first place. For a player like A.J. Brown, stepping into that kind of situation could be incredibly appealing, especially if it comes with the opportunity to be the focal point of the offense. And when you zoom out, this potential move represents more than just a roster upgrade. It signals intent. It shows that the Patriots are not content with slow progress or incremental improvement. They're looking for impact, for momentum, for a spark that can shift the narrative around the team. After seasons of inconsistency, making a move of this magnitude would instantly change expectations, both inside the building and across the league. The anticipation continues to build as the offseason unfolds, with each passing day bringing new speculation and shifting dynamics. Fans are watching closely, analysts are connecting the dots, and the front office is working behind closed doors to determine the best path forward. All the pieces are on the board, and it feels like it's only a matter of time before something significant happens. While the spotlight remains fixed on the potential arrival of a star wide receiver, there are other storylines quietly developing that could shape the Patriots' path just as much. One of them involves a name that has been circulating in conversations across the league for a long time, a defensive force who continues to dominate at the highest level. There was a brief moment where speculation started to grow about whether a major shift could happen, especially after adjustments were made to his contract. Whenever a player of that caliber has any kind of financial restructuring, it naturally sparks questions about availability and long-term plans. However, the message coming out of his organization has been clear, at least on the surface. The expectation is that he remains a cornerstone, a player they intend to build around rather than move away from. Still, in the NFL, public statements and private strategies don't always align perfectly. Front offices are constantly balancing competitiveness with long-term sustainability, and sometimes that leads to decisions that seem unlikely until they suddenly become reality. For a team like New England, it's impossible not to at least evaluate what it would take to bring in a player capable of completely transforming a defense. The challenge, of course, comes down to cost. Acquiring a talent of that magnitude would require a massive investment, likely involving multiple high-value draft picks and possibly additional assets. That kind of price tag forces teams to think carefully about their overall roster construction. It's not just about adding one elite player. It's about understanding how that move affects depth, flexibility, and future planning. For the Patriots, who are still in a phase of building and redefining their identity, committing that level of capital might not align with the bigger picture right now. Even so, situations in the league can change quickly. Teams that appear stable can find themselves in transition if results don't meet expectations, especially at key positions like quarterback. If uncertainty begins to grow in those areas, it can open the door to moves that once seemed out of reach. That's why keeping an eye on these developments matters, because what feels unrealistic today can become a genuine opportunity down the line. For now, though, it remains more of a distant possibility than an immediate plan. Shifting the focus to the division, there's another storyline that carries significant implications for New England's season. A familiar face has reemerged in a starting role, stepping into a position that comes with both pressure and opportunity. The decision to name him the primary option under center didn't take long, and it reflects both the current state of that roster and the belief that he can stabilize the offense. It's an interesting development, especially considering how his career has unfolded over the years, filled with ups, downs, and moments of resurgence. From a competitive standpoint, this could play directly into the Patriots' hands. When you evaluate divisional matchups, consistency at the quarterback position is often the deciding factor. If that offense struggles to find rhythm or efficiency, it creates openings for opponents to capitalize. New England will be looking at those games as opportunities, especially given how crucial divisional wins are in shaping the playoff picture. There's a realistic scenario where those matchups become key turning points in the season. And it's not just one team undergoing change. Another division rival is navigating a period of transition as well, with major adjustments across the roster and a new direction at quarterback. That kind of overhaul can be difficult to manage, particularly in a league where continuity often leads to success. Developing chemistry, implementing systems, and building confidence all take time, and during that process, results can be inconsistent. For the Patriots, that presents a window to take advantage and secure victories that could make a significant difference over the course of the year. Of course, none of this guarantees success. The schedule ahead is expected to be far more demanding, with stronger opponents and fewer margin for error situations. That means New England will have to be prepared, not just to compete, but to execute at a high level week after week. It also reinforces the importance of winning the games where they are favored, because those are the matchups that can define whether a team stays in contention or falls behind. Beyond the on-field dynamics, there's also a sense that the organization is evolving in ways that could pay off long-term. Investments in facilities, resources, and overall player development are starting to reflect a more modern approach. Creating an environment where athletes can maximize their performance has become a priority, and that can influence everything from preparation to recovery to overall team culture. It's a shift that aligns with what many of the league's top franchises have embraced, and it positions the Patriots to compete not just in terms of talent, but in infrastructure as well. All of these elements are coming together at a time when expectations are beginning to rise again. There's a feeling that the foundation is being rebuilt with purpose, combining strategic moves, internal growth, and the potential for headline-making additions. The pieces aren't fully in place yet, but the direction is becoming clearer, and the energy surrounding the team continues to build as each new development adds another layer to the story. As this momentum continues to build, one of the most intriguing aspects is how the Patriots are reshaping their identity without completely abandoning their roots. There's a noticeable shift towards speed, explosiveness, and versatility, especially on offense, which is something fans have been waiting to see. At the same time, the core principles that defined the franchise for years, discipline, preparation, and situational awareness, are still very much present. Blending those elements is not an easy task, but if executed properly, it can create a team that is both modern and fundamentally sound. Another factor that cannot be overlooked is the development of the younger players on the roster. Growth from within is often what separates good teams from great ones, and New England is counting on several emerging talents to take that next step. Whether it's refining decision-making, improving consistency, or simply gaining confidence through experience, these internal improvements can have just as much impact as any external acquisition. When those players start to perform at a higher level, it elevates the entire roster and creates a more competitive environment across the board. There's also an edge forming in the locker room, a sense that this group has something to prove. After seasons where the results didn't match the standard the organization is known for, that hunger can become a powerful motivator. It shows up in off-season workouts, in practice intensity, and eventually on game day. Teams that carry that kind of mentality often play with a different level of urgency, and that can be the difference in close games where execution under pressure decides the outcome. And as everything starts to come together, the spotlight naturally grows brighter. Expectations bring pressure, but they also bring opportunity. Every move, every adjustment, every performance will be analyzed, especially if the team begins to show signs of real progress. The Patriots are stepping into a phase where they're no longer just rebuilding in the background. They're positioning themselves to re-enter the conversation in a meaningful way, and that shift changes how every moment of the season will be approached moving forward. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Patriots Hub and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our New England Patriots. And don't be shy, share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers around the New England locker room are growing louder, and at the center of it all is running back RHAMONDRE Stevenson. Sources close to the organization suggest a simmering tension between Stevenson and head coach Mike Vrabel, a dynamic that may be starting to crack under pressure. While nothing has been officially confirmed, insiders hint at a heated exchange that reflects deeper frustrations within the offensive unit. According to those familiar with the situation, Stevenson did not hold back when addressing his role in the team's struggles. "I carry this offense on my back," he reportedly fired back, a statement that has quickly circulated among league circles. The remark, whether taken out of context or not, paints the picture of a player who feels both indispensable and underappreciated. Vrabel, known for his no-nonsense leadership style, has remained publicly composed, but speculation suggests he may not have welcomed the challenge to his authority. The Patriots' offense has leaned heavily on Stevenson's production, and while his performances have often been a bright spot, the broader unit has struggled to find consistency. That imbalance may be fueling the perception, fair or not, that the running back is shouldering more than his share. Some within the organization reportedly view Stevenson's comments as a sign of competitive fire, the kind that can galvanize a locker room. Others, however, worry it could signal a fracture if not addressed quickly. The relationship between a head coach and a key offensive weapon is delicate, and any public or private friction can ripple through the entire team. For now, It remains unclear whether this is a fleeting moment of frustration or the beginning of a larger storyline. What is certain is that all eyes will be on how Vrabel and Stevenson respond moving forward. In a league where narratives can shift overnight, this developing situation could either ignite the Patriots' offense or expose cracks that have been quietly forming beneath the surface. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our New England Patriots, be sure to subscribe to Patriots Hub and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.